Okay, cool.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our show. I'm your host, Aluna of Beth, and this is the Triple Chalice Tarot Blog Talk Radio Show. My co-hosts tonight are Taruk Vashal and Rowan Nix.
Hi, you guys. How's everybody doing tonight?
Hey, all. This is Rowan.
So tonight is our first ever show. How about that? Are you two excited?
Yeah, very.
I can't believe we already have callers. I'm so excited. Within 1 week, I'm so happy all of you have been waiting. Thank you for your patience.
Definitely. So let's tell them a little bit about the show. So our goal for this radio program is to reach out and give some insight into the spiritual world of tarot, right? It's TCT.
Yeah.
On today's show, we'll explore the meaning behind our name and get into the interpretation behind the tarot card that inspires us, the Three of Chalices. A little later, we'll have a Q&A so you can get a feel of each of our tarot background. And we'll also be performing a 3-card general reading. Let's see what the cards want to say. Also, if you want to keep up with us, we do have a Facebook like page. Go find us at the Triple Chalice Tarot on Facebook. And there we'll be posting all our information when we're going to have shows, after shows, all that good stuff. So, Rowan.
Yeah.
To start, why don't you give our listeners your interpretation of the Three of Chalices? What does this card mean to you, and how does this card correlate to our show, our name?
Well, I think in most decks, the Triple Chalices is generally 3 women or 3 people or 3 humanoids looking into one chalice with the other 2 holding it. So I think it's just about using your intuition in tandem with others, and there's a sense of celebration and kinship in the card that I think we all kind of have. I gel really well with these 2, and I hope that translates well into our show.
Definitely. I like that. Okay. Now, what about you, Taruk? How do you feel about the Three of Chalices and how it represents and tune in with our show?
Well, the Three of Chalices, to me, symbolizes psychic evolution and psychic development. And I feel the 3 of us, we do have psychic intuition, and we are very good at discernment and being able to, use our abilities. So I feel like we each bring something different to the table, and we each have a chalice, and we, come together to give people what we have to offer, basically.
Definitely. I like that. Well, for me to add a little bit, I want to take a little bit off of what Rowan said. Normally it is representative of 3 different people, and those people having very diverse backgrounds, and each of our experience with tarot, love of tarot, how we handle tarot, our decks, they're all different. So for that to come, and hopefully we bring a harmonious combination of our personality to the show, like Roman said, we hope it transfers onto the show. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead into the next part of our show where we wanted to give our listeners a little bit of background about us and our relationship with tarot. So, Rowan?
Oh, I think that's such a great idea. Aluna, I'm actually curious, what has tarot contributed to your life? And you reading the cards and everything, what has it done for you?
That's a good question. Tarot has always stood out to me as that very taboo medium, just something, you hear as you're growing up as something that might be very estranged or spiritually deadly or, condemning. But I've always had a affinity towards it, and I remember first starting just with novelty decks. I collected decks just for the novelty and really didn't understand that there was a system behind tarot. And once I found the system, once I was introduced to it, I just completely fell in love with it and started to study it. So tarot has been just definitely that mirror of introspection, an honest mirror of introspection. I've never felt that my cards have led me astray. I'm always able to discern a message from the cards, at least for myself, when reading for myself, because sometimes that can be difficult too, and really getting the message that the cards are translating to you. And sometimes we don't want to see some things. So it's definitely been a tool of introspection and a tool of reflection and guidance, oftentimes guidance. Yeah.
For sure, that sense of objectivity is hard to reach when you are a tarot reader. And I love how each deck has its own kind of voice, as I'm sure, yes, as a collector, I'm sure you understand that too.
Yes.
Taruk, I'm actually curious with you now. When did you realize that you were clairsentient? And clairsentience, for the viewers at home and the listeners and all that, is the inherent knowing of a psychic intuition. It's a sixth sense where you just know something versus clairvoyance where it's a vision.
I think I've always had it, but when I first began to learn about tarot and also other mystical, knowledge, things would happen around me. Like if I would think of something, you would hear a popping noise, or I would think something and then you would see it right on the television, the commercial. So it's a lot of coincidence, the universe speaking to me. So I've paid attention to those things, and it's something that literally happens on a daily basis. I pay attention to that very much.
Of course, images really resonate with you, and I really don't believe in coincidences anymore, like in reading fate and divining and all of that. Of course, everything has a cause and effect. No, girl. And that's really what the cards have come down to as they've been passed on through the generations, is these really iconic common images. But I'm really curious to know, do you have one that maybe resonates with you more than others? Like, obviously ours is the Three of Chalices right now, but what's your personal path card, let's say?
Oh, mine?
Yeah.
Well, I would have to say, I do like the Hermit. The Hermit card to me is somebody who is on a path, a solitary path. I've always had very few friends. My path is one that very few people take. I feel like it's always been different from most people. I've always just been a very solitary person to myself. So the Hermit card, he stands there with his torch and his cane, looking out with the stars just shining, with the path ahead of him blazing. So I feel like that's me. I resonate with the Hermit card the most.
I definitely feel like a lot of our listeners will too. Just following the path that maybe isn't commonly traveled, but knowing that you're on the right path.
Definitely.
Your destiny. Yeah.
Of course. Luna, what about you? Do you have one that maybe speaks to you more than others?
I do, actually, and I'm going to have to go off of this card because, and Taruk can vouch for this, oftentimes than not, this card will arrive in a reading for me or about me. It is the High Priestess. I know it's going to sound really cliche, but it's the High Priestess, and the High Priestess, she resonates with the number 2, which represents that nurturing support, that second person, that duo that brings, knowledge and intuitive knowledge, psychic knowledge, being able to peer beyond the veil, being able to be attentive to signs, like Taruk said, earlier. Always I've been attentive to signs and very perceptive on things and messages that I'm supposed to or feel as if I'm supposed to receive. So I love that card. I've in mostly every deck that I come across or I own, I like the High Priestess. She's always represented very poised, very regal, very not cold as some people might put it in their interpretation, but she's very at ease. She's very kind of off and aloof sometimes too. So I like that card, definitely.
Especially maybe to people that don't really understand tarot, she can appear that way, but it's all in how she appears in a spread, I think, too, how it comes up.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. And usually more than not, like I said, if there's a lesson for me to be picking up on, the High Priestess will remind me that it's coming from a higher place. It's coming from beyond the veil. It's coming from that right brain, that's focused more on the psychic evolution and intuition, following your heart, things of that nature that the logic really brings too much rationality to. So, yeah.
Of course. To just expand on that, I think this is also going to be cliche because it's actually the card that's associated with my sun sign, which is Aquarius, for those listening. It's the star, and usually the star is portrayed as a woman pouring water into like a pool, and she's gazing down, and then there's a star above her. But the star's always kind of been, and the star's message is a message of hope. It's a message that it will be the light when there are no other lights, that, even when things seem darkest, there's always that one point of light that you can follow. And that's really kind of what it's done in my life. Usually when I get it in a reading, it's something that I'm struggling with, or, there's chaos or whatever, and it's telling me to focus, to keep hope, for sure.
Nice. I like that.
Thank you.
The light of the guiding star, definitely. And stars have also been a huge symbol in humanity's culture as being divine, being that sort of spark of hope in the midst of despair, in the midst of chaos, like you said. So definitely, I like that.
Mm-hmm. Now, as we all have our cards that we kind of go to and have hope with, etc., I'm sure there are also cards that we absolutely dread getting in a reading, especially giving the news to other people. It can sometimes be difficult to break it.
Oh, gosh, I know.
So why don't we go around and we each go into the card that we dread the most, and that way we can get it out of the way. Tarot, do you have one that really, you just dread getting or you can't stand?
I mean, most of the swords. I mean, really.
Thank you.
But I know I was expecting laughter. But really, the 10 of swords, the 9 of swords, those cards are the ones I dread. As for me and for a client, who I'm reading, usually I do dread having to give, the definitions or something that involves, their question, dealing with that, yeah.
And what does the 9 or the 10 of swords represent to you?
I mean, well, it's just nightmare, trouble, tears, loneliness, a breakup, a separation, desperation. It really depends, but it's not a good card. They're not.
No, swords are generally just full of strife and chaos.
Yeah.
Luna, what about you? Do you also agree that the swords are the worst, or do you maybe have a different one?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and say about my different one, and then I'll elaborate on his view of the Ten of Swords and delivering that news, because the Ten of Swords, yes, it is kind of like, it's the finishing, it's the closing, but also there's a new dawn in most representations of the Ten of Swords. There's a rising sun, or one can take it as a rising sun. It's almost like the glass half empty or half full. Mm-hmm. But to go into my personal card, I would have to say it's the Tower. It's a Tower for me because we're talking about major arcana, and for our listeners who don't know, the major arcana represents life events, like this is affecting your destiny, whereas the court cards and the minor suits represent day-to-day interactions. So the Tower card, which is part of the major arcana, foretells a huge shattering, something that you've held so concrete, whether it be a belief system, a religion, the way you handle your life, the way you treat other people, the way you feel about yourself is going to be abruptly changed. And I'm one that I'm a fixed sign. I'm Leo, so Leo Virgo cusp, but fixed is my general nature. And with the Tower card, it lets you know that, especially if you get it for the future influences or the goal or destiny, that means it's going to come smack out of nowhere, just as the lightning bolt is represented in most depictions of it, slamming into the building, and the building represents, that core foundation that you built up from the ground of whatever you're holding on to, and it being destroyed. So you having to pick up the pieces, and then what follows is the Star card. So after the Tower is the Star, so there is always hope, but yeah, to receive the news that whatever you're holding dear to is going to be shattered isn't always good. So
No. I think change is an awful thing to any fixed astrological sign, which Aquarius is also fixed. And I believe, Taruk, you're a fixed sign as well, correct?
Yeah. Scorpio.
Yeah, Scorpio. We don't do well with change. Oh, my God, we're all cast too. I'm cussed with Capricorn.
Yeah.
Luna's cussed with Virgo. You're cussed with Sagittarius. That's so awesome.
That is awesome.
It's cosmic is what it is.
Yeah. There are no coincidences, right?
No.
There's none.
None.
I'm going to go off of Taruk and say that the swords are just, I hate getting swords. Swords are always strife. They're never good. They're very rarely good. Sometimes you'll get, coming out of bondage or a catharsis like you were saying, Aluna. But I think my least favorite is the actual antithesis to our, I guess, house card, which is the Three of Cups, and it's the Three of Swords. And the Three of Swords represents an actual clash of ideas. It's a really harsh kind of strife-ridden world where you're just not getting along and you're not seeing eye to eye and you never will. And it can also, if it's in reverse, mean like betrayal or like a situation where you think someone is a friend and they're really not. They're backstabbing you. It's just never a good card to get in anything, especially in the root position or in the view of others position. Those are the two worst in my opinion. But oh my gosh, look at the time flying. So I think now's the part of the show where we wanted to focus on the general reading. Is that correct?
Yes. So now we're going to get into our weekly forecast reading, and we have Taruk, who's going to be shuffling and laying the cards. So Taruk, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about your deck and how you're going to be laying out the spread this evening?
Okay, well, my deck is the African deck. This deck has traditional African deities, the illustrations from the diaspora, the Orishas, the Loa, different mythologies from Africa, and even African-American people from the United States. But it's mostly centered around Africa and the mythologies and deities of the continent. And we will be doing a 3-card spread, which will have the present position, immediate influence, or goal or destiny. So give me a second while I shuffle the cards and get you guys right together real quick.
That's so interesting, too, that there's so many different decks in the world. That, it used to be just the Rider-Waite was the go-to deck, and now we have all of these lovely interpretations that really get to put on their spin on it.
Don't get me started on fangirling for tarot decks because I have more than I should. And at some point these decks are going to need some reviewing. Who would you say is your favorite tarot author, Rowan?
Well, my deck is actually, I really like avant-garde decks. Like there was the Dali deck, and I forget the artist that did that, but they basically just produced a bunch of wonderful surreal images. And the one that I have actually is called the Revelations Tarot, and that's dual-sided for positive and negative connotations, and it's by Zach Wong. And it's,
nice.
Yeah, it's all cyborgs and mermaids and ballerinas and all this other stuff. It's just crazy, but I love it. Aquarians, we like to think spherically, everything in different directions.
Nice.
Alrighty. Okay.
Above, so below. Okay, so you're ready?
Here we go.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So the first card, which is the present position, as in what's happening right now in the moment, I pulled out the Ace of Wands, and it's funny. This card symbolizes the beginning. A starting point, something that's starting right now, like a rosebud, just being birthed, creation. It symbolizes initiative, taking that first step to move into something. This could be a new business, a new venture. I mean, this is our first show, so it's pretty funny that it came out. So the Ace of Wands, yes, that's the first card. Now, the second card, which is the immediate influence, so the things that are affecting, everything right now, is the Temperance, okay? And this card is a card about creativity, about being inspired creative-wise. This is a card also about, having harmony with yourself, your inner energies, balancing your inner self. It's also a card about generosity, but definitely a card about balance. The Temperance card is about having that balance. Now, the goal or destiny is the Judgment card, okay? And the Judgment card, this is a card about reawakening. It's a card of new ideas. It's a purification, a resurrection, you might say. This is a card also about inspiration. And this card also signifies social consent. So it's, wanting to have the approval of other people as well. So definitely, what do you guys think of this 3-card spread?
So, well, before, what do you think because it almost seems as if the reading is kind of geared towards us. I don't know.
It's no coincidence. I mean, we could take it that way, you know, and there may be some listeners
that's true.
who,
Definitely,
can also
and
identify
definitely
with it, but
So
what about
I guess
you,
let me.
Okay.
Well, the Ace of Wands can also be that moment of enlightenment. You know, it's that aha moment in creation where you're like, Eureka, I have it. I figured it out. So I think that definitely could apply to us with the show, but it also could apply to the people listening. Maybe they didn't realize some things about tarot that we've already gotten into, about the Star card or, you know, the Hermit or the High Priestess. The past
or maybe
position
somebody might start a new job.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. The past position being Temperance, the immediate influence position. That's definitely being judicious with the conservation of energy and power and all of that. I'm definitely picking up on knowing limits, knowing when too far is too far and when enough is enough. I don't know if someone listening is maybe going through a case where they're experiencing a growth in their energy or in their enlightenment, and maybe other people aren't ready to hear that or see that. But please know that what is light, and those that will be attracted to you are meant to be there. So let them in. Yeah. Let the right ones in. And that could also be applied to the Judgment card as well, as, you know, that enlightenment, that sense of knowing your place in the world. I believe in most decks it foretells the moment that the soul goes through in rebirth, in which it meditates on past life actions and is reborn. So
nice.
Wow. Hey, at least no sword.
Well, how can I even compete with that? Okay. Well, for me, the Ace of Wands is about that spark, that initial, that passion, that bit of really having an affinity towards something, and really putting the ego aside, because sometimes the ego can be the one critical and holding us back, and really going for it. So it's like you said, it's that match being lit. It's small right now, but it has so much potential to create a great flame. Going into the Temperance card, this card, whenever I see this card, it tells me about moderation, having consideration, being able to balance your polar opposites. So being that this is from the Major Arcana, this is talking about the self. So somewhere along the lines, we have to get that reality check. You know, we have to come to terms with understanding, okay, we can't do this as much as we used to, or we have to cut back on this, or we can't spend too much on this. So budgeting is something that rings very clear when I hear about the Temperance, and also moderation in drinking, because the Temperance is mostly displayed dealing with the water. So that's the emotions. That's also, you know, a lot of things that we intake within ourselves, fluid-wise. And last, the Judgment card really stands out to me about answering to the beat of your own drum. And I think now, in this era, 2015, and moving forward, our generation, because we're pretty much young, we're in our 20s, is very much about redefining what it means to be the self. And there's such a broad spectrum of that. I mean, look at us. You know, all of us are very gender fluid. And the Judgment is saying that is definitely your calling. That is definitely who you're meant to be. So whether it be with tarot, whether it be with music, whether it be with art, if it is your calling, there are going to be obstacles along the way, but the Judgment is telling you that it's going to you're going to continuously hear that music play. So take advantage of it. Going back to the Ace, take advantage of it and go for it, because you don't want to sit there, you know, at the end of your life or something happens, God forbid, and you haven't taken that initiative or the first step to aspire to your dreams. So that's definitely what I see. And it seems like we are down to 5 minutes left for the show.
Oh, and wow.
I know. How time flies, right?
Oh, my God.
So I'm going to go ahead into the closing half of our show. If you have been listening, we thank you so much for tuning in. We will be hosting every Saturday as well as doing weekly chats and discussions. You can find us once again on Facebook, on our Facebook like page, the Triple Chalice Tarot. It's all one word. And we'll be posting articles on tarot. You guys can listen to us and let us know what you think. Leave us a comment or any topic discussion ideas that you have in mind or you want to hear on our show. And for our next show, we're going to be delving back into the elementary of tarot. So we're going to be answering questions like how to find the perfect deck. You know, there's so many decks out there. How do you find the right one? Also, we'll be talking about grounding and clearing exercises to really develop a closer relationship with your deck. Be trusting of your deck. You know, like I said earlier in the show, the deck really hasn't led me astray. I don't know. I'm actually able to pick up on a lot from all of my cards, no matter what the spread is or the layout is. My deck is, I really rely on it. It's like you can't even be, how do you say, when you're sort of skeptical. You can't even be skeptical anymore. So that is what we're going to be doing for the next part of our show. So you guys want to say anything else to our listeners to close up for tonight?
Well, thank you for listening. I'm just at a gag. I can't believe that we have, a full house,
Well, we did it.
I know, it was fun. It was really, really fun. So, yes, again, go to our Facebook page, Triple Chalice Tarot, and let us know what you think about this first show.
We love reviews. Please, we'd love to hear from you.
Yes, please. Any questions, comments, we appreciate everything.
Of course. I just want to say Ache, Amen, and blessed be. Thank you so much for listening in, guys.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.